hanging out with my best friend.
Well, we're learning more this morning about a woman allegedly murdered by her Uber driver just yards from her home.
Metro Police now tell us that that Uber driver allegedly confessed to that murder. Matthew Foltz is following this story this morning with more on a crime that police are calling not only disturbing but disgusting. Good morning, Matthew.
Hey, good morning to you both. This is just a heartbreaking story all the way around. Metro Police telling us that they have arrested 29-year-old Francisco Valadez in connection to Chanti Dixon's murder. Now, officers say that they found Dixon on Sunday naked in a wooded area along Wagner Lane near East Raymond and Shervin Drive. She was found with gunshot wounds and pronounced dead at the scene.
Have you ever considered, what if the very act of seeking safety turns into your worst nightmare? What if the simple act of calling for a ride home became a one-way trip to oblivion? This isn't fiction. This is the story of Chanti Dixon, a 30-year-old mother, a woman who laughed freely, loved fiercely, and whose dedication to her children was her very heartbeat. But on a seemingly ordinary night, that heartbeat stopped. It was Sunday, September 8, 2024. A day that began like any other, ended in a way no one could have predicted. Indianapolis, Indiana. The crossroads of America. A city of bustling streets and hidden corners. Now, imagine this, it's late. Chanti, after a long shift, calls an Uber. A routine ride home. A simple act, but what if it wasn't? She climbed into that car. And then, she vanished. Her family waited. They called. No answer. Messages left unanswered. Panic began to set in. You know that feeling, right? That knot in your stomach when something just isn't right? By Monday morning, desperation took hold. A missing person report filed. A frantic search. But what they found was far worse than anyone could have imagined. Now, here's the twist. The last person to see her alive? The very person she trusted to get her home. Her Uber driver. Francisco Valadez. A name that would soon become synonymous with horror. But what happened in that car? What led to Chanti's disappearance, and ultimately, her death? We're going to piece together the events of that night. We're going to follow the trail of clues, the inconsistencies, and the shocking revelations that led investigators to the truth. And I want to ask you, right now, before we go any further, have you ever felt unsafe in a rideshare? Share your experiences in the comments below. Let's talk about this. Because what happened to Chanti could happen to anyone. And you're about to see how quickly a seemingly normal night can turn into something truly unimaginable. Welcome to Whistles of True Crime, where we unveil the darkest mysteries and the most chilling true crime tales. If you crave real-life crime stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat, you're in the right place. Kindly subscribe to this channel now and turn on the notification bell, so you never miss any of our new stories. Your support keeps these stories alive. Indianapolis, Indiana, the crossroads of America. A city where interstates converge and a vibrant culture pulses. Home to the iconic Indianapolis 500, a world-class children's museum, and a revitalized downtown, Indy blends Midwestern charm with urban energy. But beneath the surface of this bustling metropolis lies a troubling reality. While Indianapolis boasts a thriving art scene and a burgeoning culinary landscape, it also grapples with a concerning rate of crime. Gun violence, in particular, has become a persistent issue, casting a shadow over the city's progress. Figures show that Indianapolis experiences a rate of violent crime higher than the national average, with gun-related incidents contributing significantly to these statistics. This duality, the promise of opportunity juxtaposed with the threat of violence, forms the backdrop of Chanti Dixon's tragic story. A city of contrasts, where hope and heartbreak intersect. Before she became a headline, Chanti Dixon was full of life. A mother, a force, born in Flint, Michigan. But her story wasn't confined to any one place. She'd made her way to Atlanta, Georgia, and then, finally, to Indianapolis. A fresh start. An apartment. A new chapter. But what does a fresh start really mean, when the past can't be escaped? Chanti. 30 years old. 2 children. Everything she did, was for them. Her laughter, they say, filled a room, infectious and unforgettable. A friend described her as goofy, happy, always laughing, always caring. A person who left a lasting impression. Think about that for a moment. Who leaves that kind of impression? She was more than a mother, of course. A daughter. A friend. Neighbors saw her with her kids, their small dog. A picture of everyday life. Normal. But normal, as we know, can be shattered in an instant. She worked hard. At the Sunset Strip. Late shifts. Long nights. Why? To provide. To build a future. For her children. It was a grind. But she did it. And she did it with a smile. Now, here's something to consider. What dreams did she have? What were her plans? Did she know that her life, because the truth is, her move to Indianapolis wasn't just a new beginning. It was also a point of vulnerability. She was new. Less familiar with her surroundings. Less connected. And that, in the wrong hands, can be dangerous. And here's the thing. That Sunday night, September 8th, she called that Uber. Francisco Valadez. A name that now echoes in the worst ways. But what if she'd known? What if she'd seen a sign? What if she'd known that the ride home would be her last? We'll find out what happened in that car, but before we do, tell me, in the comments, how do you protect yourself, when you're out and about? What precautions do you take? Because what happened to Chanti could happen to anyone. And what happens next is unbelievable, the Sunset Strip. An adult entertainment club on East Washington Street, Indianapolis. That's where Chanti spent her last night. A late shift. The hours stretching into the early morning of Sunday, September 8th, imagine her there, working and smiling, perhaps. But also counting down the minutes until she could go home. Around 3:30 a.m., she calls an Uber. A simple tap on her phone. A digital promise of safety. A ride requested, a driver assigned, Francisco Valadez. The app logs the details. The route. The estimated time of arrival. But what the app doesn't record are the intentions of the driver. What it doesn't show is the darkness that was about to unfold. Cell phone data paints a picture. A route that should have taken her home. A journey that should have been routine. But something went wrong. Terribly wrong. The probable cause affidavit indicates that Chanti was found at a dead end in the 1800 block of Wagner Lane. The ride should have been uneventful, but it wasn't. Her family, waiting at home, grew worried. Calls went unanswered. Texts ignored. The silence deafening. By Monday, the alarm bells were screaming. A missing person report was filed. A desperate search began. But they were already too late. What happened during that ride? What was said? What was done? The answers are chilling. And they're about to be revealed. But before we get there, let me ask you this. Have you ever felt a sense of unease when you're alone, late at night? That feeling that something isn't right? Hold on to that feeling. Because what happened next will leave you breathless. The search for Chanti intensified. Her family, friends, desperate. Every hour that passed, the hope dwindled. They searched, they called. They prayed. But their worst fears were about to be realized. Then, the call came. A wooded area near the 1800 block of Wagner Avenue. A report of an unresponsive woman. The location chillingly close to where the Uber app indicated Chanti had been dropped off. Police arrived, they found Chanti Dixon lifeless, her body in a disturbing state, naked with a sweatshirt pulled over her head and arms. A gunshot wound, a scene that spoke of violence, of brutality, a life stolen. The Marion County Coroner's Office confirmed the inevitable. Homicide. The word, a cold, hard truth. Chanti Dixon was gone. How could this happen? How could a routine ride end like this? The question hung heavy in the air, but the police had a job to do, and their focus quickly turned to the last person to see her alive. Francisco Valadez. 29 years old. Uber driver. He became the focal point. The thread that investigators began to pull. The Uber app. A digital trail. It led them directly to Valadez. He was the driver, he was the last known contact. But what was his story? Initial questioning. Valadez gave his first version of events. A black male, a robbery gone wrong, a shot fired. Chanti fleeing. A story that didn't add up. Suspicious behavior. He'd cleaned his car. Why? His mother, unknowingly, provided a crucial piece of information. He carried a gun, and that gun was inside his home. The net was closing. The lies unraveling. But what really happened in that car? What drove Francisco Valadez to commit such a heinous act? The truth is darker than anyone could have imagined. And it's about to be revealed. The interrogation began. A room designed for one purpose, to extract the truth. Francisco Valadez sat across from detectives. His narrative? A patchwork of lies, quickly unraveling. He shifted his story. Contradictions piled up. The initial claim of a robbery gone wrong? Discarded. A new version emerged. Then another. Each one less believable than the last. At the IMPD homicide office, the pressure mounted. Detectives pressed. They confronted him with the inconsistencies. With the evidence. And then the confession. Valadez admitted it. He shot Chanti Dixon. In the head. In the back of his car. The motive? A twisted attempt at sexual assault. Anger. A rage that erupted when she laughed at him. He offered money to take his virginity, and she laughed. He dragged her body. To a secluded area. Behind a concrete barrier. He tried to have sex with her body, then he left, abandoning her. The details brutal. The act, monstrous. But the truth was finally exposed. What drives a person to such violence? What darkness resides within? These questions linger. And they lead us to the next chapter. A chapter about the aftermath. About the shock. About the search for answers. And about the urgent need to address the safety of ride-sharing services. Because what happened to Chanti could happen to anyone.
Meanwhile, we are learning more tonight about a murder investigation here in Indianapolis. A rideshare driver admits to detectives he shot and killed a female customer.
That woman's body was discovered on the near southeast side yesterday. CBS 4's Jesse Wells spoke to the woman's family and to police at the IMPD police chief about this case.
The victim's family tells me they tracked her phone down to these woods where they found her body and called police. Less than 24 hours later, IMPD had the suspect in custody and are now preaching a message of prevention. Just after 1 o'clock Monday afternoon, in these woods on Indy's near southeast side, a woman who had been reported missing hours earlier was found naked with a shirt pulled over her head. Police believe 30-year-old Chanti Dixon had been sexually assaulted and shot to death.
This is just disgusting all around, and it did not have to happen.
Police claim a 29-year-old Uber driver, Francisco Valadez, picked up the victim from work early Sunday morning and drove Dixon to her home at this apartment complex just a few feet from the woods where she was murdered. According to this affidavit, Valadez gave conflicting stories but eventually admitted to shooting the victim while trying to have sex with her. After dumping Dixon's body, the suspect confessed he tried to have sex with her again.
This is a family's worst nightmare. We're disgusted by these allegations.
Police quickly used rideshare information from Uber to help track down the accused killer.
Rideshares continue to be an excellent and a safe option to use when you're out in our community.
While they insist the murder in these woods is an isolated incident, IMPD says rideshare users can always share their location with friends and family, and women should trust their instincts if things feel dangerous.
Women, you have a right to exist in this community safely, and you have a right to use these rideshares safely. Trust yourself.
This is disgusting. It's disturbing. Ms. Dixon, especially her family, no one deserves to be treated this way in our community.
Finally, formal charges by the prosecutor's office in this case are still pending. In the meantime, IMPD asks anyone who may have had a suspicious encounter with the suspect using rideshare in recent weeks to contact their department. Jesse Wells, CBS 4 News.
A spokesperson from Uber sent CBS 4 a statement saying in part, quote, "Our hearts break for Miss Dixon's family and loved ones in the midst of this tragedy. We will assist Indianapolis police however we can as they continue to investigate."
Francisco Valadez was arrested. Murder. The charge. But more than that. The potential for additional counts. The judicial system now in motion. The Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department held a press conference. Chief Chris Bailey. Assistant Chief Catherine Cummings. Their words raw. Unfiltered. Disgusting, disturbing. Chief Bailey's assessment. Assistant Chief Cummings, speaking with a personal weight, as a woman this hits differently. Her message? Clear. Women, girls, mothers have equal right to exist freely, a right to walk, bike, order a rideshare without fear. The city reacted. Shock. Grief. Calls for justice. The story spread. Friends, family devastated. A GoFundMe page launched. To support Chanti's children. To cover funeral expenses. Emotional responses. Raw, unfiltered. She was goofy, happy, always laughing, always caring. A friend's words. A snapshot of who Chanti was. A life stolen. But beyond the grief, a question lingered. How could this happen? How could a ride home end in such brutality? And what about the safety of ride sharing? What about the next person? What about you? Because the truth is, this story isn't over. And the questions it raises are far from answered. A murder within a rideshare, the question isn't if, but how safe are we? Uber's response? Swift. Francisco Valadez was banned. Immediately. Cooperation with the investigation. Promised, but a ban, does it prevent the crime in the first place? What about the safety protocols? Real-time location sharing. Emergency contacts features within the app. Do they truly protect? Law enforcement tips. Uber's own advice. Check the license plate. Verify the driver's photo. Share your ride status. Basic precautions. But are they enough? Concerns remain. Background checks. Driver accountability. How thorough are they? Can they detect the hidden dangers? The ones that lurk beneath the surface? Because here's the reality. Anyone can get a license. Anyone can drive. But can we truly know the person behind the wheel? Can we guarantee their intentions? The answer unsettling. What if Chanti had known? What if she'd had more information? Would it have changed anything? These are the questions we must ask. Because the safety of rideshare is not just an app feature. It's a fundamental right. And it's a right that was tragically violated. When a life is taken, what remains? A legacy. And in Chanti Dixon's case, a legacy that demands to be honored. A GoFundMe page. Created. For her children. For funeral expenses. For the future that was stolen. Remembering Chanti. Not as a victim but as a mother, a friend. A force. She was fun, she was outrageous, a ball of life. Words from her mother, Chanti Dixon.
Doing stuff like that man did to my child. Because you picked up a stripper at work and you thought, wasn't nobody gonna care? We care. And y'all can't do that.
A glimpse into the woman she was. Her family's message. Resolute. Do not let what happened diminish what she put out in the world. A call to action. A refusal to let her memory be defined by tragedy. The emotional impact? Immeasurable. The financial burden? Real. Her children now without their mother. A void that can never be filled. But there's more, something deeper, a truth that cannot be ignored. The way we remember her, the way we support her family. The way we demand change. Because Chanti's story is not just about her. It's about us. About how we respond to violence. About how we protect the vulnerable. And here's the question, what do we do? Do we let her story fade? Or do we use it as a catalyst for change? Because the choice is ours. The story of Chanti Dixon, a tragedy, a failure. A stark reminder of the violence that can lurk in the shadows. We failed to protect her. We failed to prevent this. And that is a truth we must confront. Vigilance. Systemic change. These are not just words. They are necessities. We must demand safer rideshares. We must hold perpetrators accountable. We must protect the vulnerable. Kindly share this video, raise awareness, support Chanti's family. These are not just requests. They are responsibilities. Because silence is not an option. Chanti Dixon, remember her name. Remember her life. Remember the laughter. Remember the love. Do not let her death be in vain. Let it be a catalyst. A force for change. A reason to fight for a safer world. Because her story is not just a story. It's a warning. And it's a call to all of us. We deeply sympathize with Chanti Dixon's children and family. Words feel inadequate to express the depth of sorrow for your devastating loss. Chanti's light, her love, and her memory will forever live on in your hearts. May you find strength and comfort in each other during this incredibly difficult time. If you've been moved by Chanti Dixon's story, kindly like this video. Share it with your friends and family. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories like this. And most importantly, let's continue the conversation. What can we do to make a difference? Let us know in the comments below. Your voice matters. Thank you for watching.